conveyed it to the president?
I don't know, but it was conveyed to my chain of command.
So who made the decision to turn down the Taliban offer to allow the U.S. military to secure Kabul and put the safety of our troops in the hands of the Taliban?
I did not consider that to be a formal offer, and it was not the reason why I was there. So I did not pursue it. So if someone actually made a decision, that would have been me.
So we don't know if it was conveyed to the president. We don't know.
I do know it was conveyed to my chain of command.
Okay. What do you, in military terms, what do you call the retreat of military forces under security provided by and with the permission of enemy forces?
Don't know. I've never done one of those operations.
I think you just did one of those operations.
I disagree.
You disagree. So you
Yes.
did not withdraw forces from Afghanistan after a negotiation with the Taliban?
That is correct. We did not do that.
Okay. So this would not be a conditional surrender, in your opinion?
This would not be a conditional
So
surrender.
what would you describe the operation?
I would describe it as a non-combatant evacuation operation that we conducted with our own timing and with our own forces, and we warned the Taliban that if they interfered with that operation, we would strike them hard. They chose not to interfere with that operation.
Okay, so you're saying the meeting you had in Doha was just to let the Taliban know this is what we're doing, you know, take it or leave it, but you were operating at that point under the agreement we had negotiated with the Taliban for surrender, right? The Doha agreement.
I was there to tell the Taliban that we were conducting a non-combatant evacuation operation.
But wait. A NEO, by DoD definition, does not definitionally include the evacuation of combatants. You were also evacuating combatants, so the NEO was part of the operation.
Actually, no, you're wrong. When I met with the Taliban on 15 August, we had completed the withdrawal operation. Further forces that went in were forces that were core to the NEO operation. And in fact, DoD doctrine would include the insertion and extraction of combatant forces as part of a NEO operation.
But what do we call the withdrawal of combatants, whether it happened before?
It can be called a retrograde. It could be called a withdrawal.
Was it in your orders, though? What were you tasked with doing?
I was tasked to conduct a non-combatant evacuation operation.
Which you just said happened after you had withdrawn forces.
Largely, that's correct.
Okay. And you didn't get tasking, what did the tasking to withdraw the forces call that operation?
I would have to go back and take a look at it. I believe it was a withdrawal.
Withdrawal. Okay. Which I believe the definition is a repositioning of forces. I would call it a conditional surrender. I guess we'll have to check the dictionary definition on that. Just to go to something that General Milley said before, has al-Qaeda sworn bayat to the Taliban?
I believe there's a deep relationship between the Taliban.
But have they sworn bayat? Just yes or no?
I couldn't answer that question for you right now.
Oh, I believe General Milley said it before. Has the Taliban renounced the previous oath that al-Qaeda swore?
The Taliban and al-Qaeda have a very close relationship, and I do not expect the Taliban to seriously interfere with their basing and repositioning in Afghanistan, which is, I think, the question you're asking.
Okay, yeah. Well, let me get it a different way. The new interior minister for the Taliban government is Sirajuddin Haqqani. He's a known al-Qaeda associate. Is there any evidence that he or the Haqqani network has broken with al-Qaeda?
None.
Did the March attack on Fob Chapman breach the Doha agreement, in your opinion?
No, it did not.
It did not. General McKenzie, do you know which Taliban forces were actually providing security in front of the airport?
Yes, we do.
Was it Badri 313?
They were part of it. There were other elements as well. It was a hodgepodge of units.
But Badri 313 was part
among others.
Among others. A group that specializes in suicide bombing attacks. Had the suicide bomber been imprisoned, I think you suggested to Congresswoman Hartzler that the suicide bomber might have been imprisoned in Bagram before. Do we know?
I don't recall suggesting
okay.
that.
So do we know whether he had?
Where the suicide bomber came from.
Did we have an opportunity to take him out prior to the suicide bombing attack?
We did not.
We did not have an opportunity to take him out. And just finally, does the over-horizon posture that we're now adopting, will that be more or less difficult now that we are out of the country?
I've said on the record it will be very difficult to do. It is not impossible to do.
Okay.
Thank you. Time has expired. Mr. Kim is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General McKenzie, I wanted to start with you. You said reports about you engaging with the Taliban about a red line around Kabul before its fall were false. Does that mean that there was no discussion or consideration in the U.S. of a plan to defend Kabul in early August before its fall?
There was never a discussion about a plan to defend Kabul before its fall. I will say that when I went to Doha, I took with me a graphic. It was a map of Kabul with a 30-kilometer ring on the outside. Our original proposal was we would ask the Taliban to stay outside that ring, but we were not going to threaten them. We felt that was the best way to do deconfliction. However, on the day of the meeting, they were already in downtown Kabul. so the graphic was outdated, and we had to proceed from the new reality.
Secretary Austin, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. When I spent some time in the Situation room with you in 2014, when we were fearing the fall of Erbil and Baghdad, U.S. CENTCOM commander immediately drew up some con-ops on defending those positions using air assets. The effort was to buy time for the Iraqis and the Iraqi Kurds to reconstitute. Did it not cross your mind to consider something like that in early August before the fall of Kabul?
This is certainly something we considered. You know, we took a look at what we would need to do to protect the embassy, and if we had to do a NEO, what could we do to buy time for that operation to take place?
Chairman Milley, I wanted to switch to you. Yesterday, you said that you were asked on August 25th to make a decision about the August 31st deadline. Was there an actual formal request made to the Taliban fight by the United States to stay past August 31st? Was there a request that was then denied that you were taking into account in that decision?
I don't make decisions, Congressman. I provide advice.
In your recommendation.
I was asked for what's called best military advice. I'm not aware of a formal request to the Taliban one way or the other on saying past the 31st. I am very familiar with the advice that we provided on the 25th.
Before the fall of Kabul, did we actually have formal Taliban agreement upon an August 31st departure date?
I'm not sure what you mean by formal, but I think that's a
Had
policy.
there ever been a point where the United States went to the Taliban saying that we are planning to leave on August 31st?
Sure.
And I'm talking about prior to the fall of Kabul.
Yeah, I think from a policy perspective, Zal Khalilzad could give you the detailed information on that. I do believe the Taliban knew that we were departing on the 31st. We announced it.
But you weren't aware of it?
I'm not aware of
so that
a
I should
formal
ask.
agreement. Khalilzad could give you better definition of that.
General McKenzie, I want to
Yes,
turn back to you then, because you were saying that you talked with the Taliban on August 15th. Did you use August 31st as a date to end the operations? Was there a date set at all in your discussions with
I did not use a specific date when I talked to them.
So no date was set on August 15th on
I
when
did not
the U.S. would
I did
depart?
not convey a specific date as part of my conversation.
I wanted to switch gears one more time here. Secretary Austin, moving forward, when we're looking at the fundamental viability of the over-the-horizon effort, is the airspace over Afghanistan currently considered sovereign airspace? And I guess I'll frame it in a slightly different way. Is it currently legal for the United States to conduct ISR sorties and airstrikes in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Under what authority is that legal?
Well, same authorities we were using before.
And that would be under the Security and Defense Cooperation Agreement of 2014, is that correct?
No, I think what we're prosecuting now is are the authorities that were referred to by General McKenzie earlier, and he mentioned that he would have to take that into a classified setting.
Okay, well, I'll certainly follow with you that way. General McKenzie, something I wanted to follow up with you on. Yesterday in your hearing in front of the Senate, you made a comment when asked about the war on terror, and you said that the war on terror is not over, but then you also went on and said that the war in Afghanistan is not over. So I just wanted a clarification from you. In your opinion, is the war in Afghanistan over?
So I believe the war in Afghanistan is not over. I believe we are no longer a party to that war, but that doesn't mean that ISIS and the Taliban aren't going to engage in a furious fight this fall that may result in the ISIS being crushed, or it may result in
Oh, I
ISIS
see. So
holding
when
ground.
you're saying that, you're referring that you believe that there's a civil war in Afghanistan, but in terms of the United States war against Afghanistan, you would say that that is over.
We have no forces in Afghanistan. Our only interest in Afghanistan is looking for ISIS-K
Gentleman's
and
time
al-Qaeda targets.
has expired.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chairman.
Gates is recognized.
February 26, 2020, House Armed Services Committee, General Mark Milley. We know we're not going to defeat the Taliban militarily, and they're not going to defeat the government of Afghanistan militarily. You really blew that call, didn't you, General?
I believe that was a issue of strategic stalemate, and that if we had remained in Afghanistan with the advisory levels of effort, then the government of Afghanistan.
Well, that's an interesting
Afghan
answer to a
security
question. It's
forces-
just not one I asked. You spent more time with Bob Woodward on this book than you spent analyzing the very likely prospect that the Afghanistan government was going to fall immediately to the Taliban, didn't you?
Not even close, Congressman.
Oh, really? Because you said right after Kabul fell that no one could have anticipated the immediate fall of the Ghani government. When did you become aware that Joe